on the 10th, Mercury, following where the new moon was last week, or just a couple days ago, Mercury forms a harmonious trine with Uranus, which I think is kind of what you were saying before, though you weren't talking about this specifically, and that's the innovative ideas, the futuristic thinking. Here we get a shot at that again. And this leads up to the full moon
on the 17th. Now, the full moon occurs every month. It's the moon's opposition to the sun. It's the polarization of the yin and the yang, of the night and of the day, of the conscious and of the instinctive. The sun in Sagittarius is the will to go far. And the moon in Gemini is the need to attend, or the possibility of being distracted by the million and one things going on around here. Gemini is about all of this stuff. It's the multiplicity of things that are within reach. Sagittarius is the one big thing that may be beyond our reach. And together, they have a great deal to do with the mind. Again, Mercury is associated with Gemini, the lower or concrete, data-oriented mind, and Jupiter is associated with Sagittarius, the philosophical or higher mind.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about this full moon is that Uranus, which had been retrograde for the past 5-6 months, turns direct that day. And normally, when the outer planets go from retrograde to direct, it's almost not noticeable. But this, I think, is particularly important because A, Uranus played a strong role in the new moon just 2 weeks ago. B, what this means is that Uranus will be then marching closer back toward the square with Pluto, toward the 5th of 7 squares that these two planets make from 2012 through 2015. And that next square is not until next March, but intuitively we know that the action is heating up again, and I think that this full moon really does. I think the word that you used that I like is information. It's about the difference between the information that we get on an ongoing basis that becomes the noise of the fabric of our life. Thank you. And the information that we use as we combine these little bits of information into whatever our goal is, into what we're reaching toward. That Sagittarius, the arrow aiming towards something off into the future.
Yeah, the higher voice, the voice of God or the goddess, whatever represents that highest. That's very Sagittarian. And it's a good idea to think of Gemini as that noise or that data that just keeps flowing. So this is very mentally open. It's a relatively benign full moon insofar as there are no major hard angles, stressful planetary patterns to the sun or the moon.
No, and if anything, I mean, we're still getting the benefits of this. But there is something else that's cooking that has to do with Venus slowing down. I mean, Venus is almost not moving already on the day of the full moon. You were going to say something else?
Yeah, I just had another thought about what we can learn about this Gemini full moon is that our highest goals, our highest ideas and aspirations, which Sagittarius is about, need to be lived out in little ways in our daily lives. That even if you can't become a vegan and you think you should, or even if you can't meditate for 2 hours a day and you think you should, or even if you think you should love everybody unconditionally and you can't, notice when you act graciously to someone you want to stay back, and that's progress. Notice when you've taken a 5-minute meditation. Notice when you sort of passed on the pork chop. You know that what Gemini is about is taking the highest ideals of Sagittarius and sort of expressing them in smaller forms. Now, for the super religious or moralistic, that screws the whole thing up. If you're a purist, that's a mess. But if you're not an absolute purist, having little hors d'oeuvres of the ideal meal is sometimes the best that we can do, and still keeps our taste alive for that bigger banquet of meaning. Venus retrograde.
Venus retrograde.
Now, the planets run in groups and of various combinations, and Venus and Mars are a pair. Venus, you know, all you gotta do is go to a place where they're used as gender symbols on bathroom doors, and you'll see that Venus and Mars are paired, but they're the two planets bracketing the Earth. Attractive Venus, the idea of love and beauty and peace and harmony, is going toward the center, toward the sun, and Mars, that warrior, that young energy heading out into a new direction, sits outside the Earth's orbit. But we talked about Mars and its long stay in Libra, and now Venus, this gracious, loving planet, in a sign that she doesn't hate, but it itches a little bit for her to be in the tweed.
Because she has handcuffs on.
Well, that's to each their own fantasy.
Well, Capricorn is a sign of restraint. It wasn't just my fantasy.
It was this only.
Thank you. Capricorn is about restraint. Capricorn is about delayed gratification. It's about working toward a goal. Venus is about pleasure. It's about sensuality. Venus in Capricorn does real well when she is restrained, and I don't necessarily mean by handcuffs. What I mean is by the rules. When Venus is working within a set of known rules in Capricorn, she's fine. But Venus works best when when the only rule is find pleasure. And so Venus turns retrograde before escaping Capricorn and going into Aquarius, which it looks like she does, but you can see that she barely moves at all for a couple of days, and then she turns retrograde on the 21st.
Right, and goes direct on January 31st, and is in Capricorn until March 4th. So the lovers, Venus and Mars, the two planets of connecting with one another, whether in a friendly way or an erotic way, the two planets that have to do with making art. Venus, aesthetics, Mars, action, technique, inaction. Both of those planets are going to be retrograde. And retrograde doesn't mean bad, it just means going over territory we've already been through. Mars doesn't go retrograde until next year. Actually, they're not at the same time, but it's first Venus, then Mars. And so we're in this long period of reevaluation in terms of relationships, love, self-worth, and pleasure, which are Venus is the
Well, another thing about retrogrades, and many of you have heard me say this about Mercury retrograde, Mercury is a planet that moves the fastest and goes retrograde the most often. And it goes retrograde when it comes closer to Earth in its normal movement. And as it comes closest to Earth, we lose perspective, and it's like the train on the track right next to us. It looks like it's going backwards, but it's really just going as fast forward as we are. And so one of the things to keep in mind when a planet goes retrograde, whether it be Mercury, Venus later this month, or Mars early next year, is that those planets are close to Earth and therefore intense. And so part of why we have to focus on relationships and our own aggression and how we're going to work with that has to do with these planets right now are brighter. I don't know if anybody saw in the twilight sky, the sun went down, and there was a little crescent of the moon was just a couple days ago, and just off to the left was this very bright thing that looked like proverbial weather balloon. That was Venus, because when planets are retrograde, because they're closer to Earth, they're brighter than they can ever get. And so that's part of our dealing with weather this time.
Yeah, and I think another thing to consider again is the sign Venus is in, which is Capricorn. And we're talking about it as restraint, and often it's self-created restraint. It's the restraint of ambition, trying to get ahead to a particular structure.
Delayed gratification that lasts, rather than the immediate gratification that they come. No, that's Venus in Capricorn.
Right, and the fact that Venus is going retrograde in Capricorn is not only about reviewing relationships, which is Venus retrograde, but in Capricorn it's a relationship to ambition and material success. That ambition, whether it's career-related, whether it's trying to accomplish something, your love, your pleasure, your attraction, the value that you find in a particular goal may need to be refrained while Venus is retrograde. Maybe you back out, maybe you reduce your commitment, or maybe you rediscover an interest, a talent, or a lover from the past that inspires you going forward, going into the future. So that is a kind of fitness in the world of relationship, because the relationship planet is in a fixed sign and going backwards both at the same time.
And the day after it turns around to go backwards, it gets bigger because we have the winter solstice, and the sun moves from Sagittarius, the upbeat, outgoing, enthusiastic, exaggerating sign of Sagittarius, into the same, the sun is the beginning and Venus is at the end. We now have the sun and Venus in the same sign, and so then that weightiness, the seriousness, the responsibility perhaps comes in another layer.
Yeah, and the sun is in Capricorn, East Coast, West Coast, the 21st. Rick's still in Bali, which is the Bali one. It happens on the 22nd. It's not a Capricorn. Right?
There it is.
Okay. So we have the sun in Capricorn, and every sign is a response to and reaction to the sign that preceded it. Our success in Capricorn, which is about being ambitious, competent, disciplined, authoritative, all that stuff. If we're enthusiastic in a way that's honest for us, then, which is good use of Sagittarius, then we're more likely to accomplish what we like in Capricorn. But if we bullshit ourselves too much in Sagittarius, Capricorn can be the restraint of our reality we would rather not be.
All right, now, here comes the beginnings of what may be considered to be a perfect storm. And that is, the sun is moving to Capricorn, it's 10 days away, consumes about a degree a day. It's 10 days away from catching up to Pluto. Remember, Uranus is now direct and is catching up back up to that square to Pluto again. And meanwhile, we have Mars, which moved into Libra now a couple of weeks ago, from December 22nd, where we're looking at now. Mars is just coming up to an opposition to Uranus and a square to the Sun, and on top of that, we have Venus retrograde backing into that whole mess. Boom, 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 boom. This is basically, and it's not bad. What it is, it's
terrible. It's probably more accurate.
What it is this is a time when we're going to need to process change. We're going to need to look at those things that aren't working, and the more we resist them, the more change we will have to be confronted with at some point in time.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it, Rick, because when we take the risks of being proactive, things don't always work. But in general, they work better than when we resist change as the wave is breaking. And because the Uranus-Pluto square is the basic backdrop of dynamic individual and cultural change, every time groupings of faster-moving planets trigger them, we tend to be in hotter periods that often manifest themselves through conflict and chaos on the downside, and hopefully breakthrough on the upside. The day before Christmas, December 24th, Mercury goes into Capricorn, which tends to put minds into filing cabinets. That the function of the restraint of Capricorn for intellectual Mercury is this needs to go here, this needs to go here, this needs to go here. Well, that's all fine and good, particularly for many people, a traditional period of time of celebration, except exactly on Christmas Day, in effect of a couple of days coming and going, we have one of the most explosive aspects possible. Mars, the bomber, opposing Uranus, the nitroglycerin.
Don't carry matches and the fuse in the same pocket
while you're smoking.
And on top of that, the moon on the 25th is in Libra, coming through the same, coming through the same point.
Well, that's interesting because Libra is so nice that either we're going to go into massive denial, and maybe this may be delayed explosion. The kind of thing where you've left your parents or whomever or old friends, 2 days later and you go, I don't know why I agreed with Arthur again. He said that same crap all of these years, and I came this close, but then I saw the kids and the packages and the tinsel and the baby Jesus, and I just couldn't tell him what the fuck I really think he is. Well, and I'm not suggesting you say that. However, letting small amounts of steam off, if you can, in the moment, may be healthier and more educational to Arthur than shutting up entirely.
Yet it's not only in the moment, because over the next several days, obviously, that Mars is also coming to a square with Pluto, so the issues aren't going to go away by ignoring them, which is an important piece here, I think.
Yeah, and while, we're talking about this in sort of a darkly emotional and psychological way, taking these planetary tensions and interpreting them as personal problems and issues, which indeed they may manifest as. They're also, from a deeper psychological and from a metaphysical perspective, these are opportunities to discover freedom and to invest what it takes to get free. Uranus is the planet of freedom, and Pluto is the price tag. So this sort of sequence of Mars to Uranus, which normally means we get a hard Mars-Uranus aspect, a major one every 6 months. And basically it's about, I want to do what I want to do. I want to act Mars independently with Uranus. And then when Pluto comes along, or when Mars hits Pluto, then we either suppress it because, oh my God, I can't do that, that's illegal, or that's too dangerous or destructive and I don't want to be that person. Or we calculate, okay, what must be changed? Pluto compels. Uranus sort of just makes it crazy in the moment. But Uranus sort of takes that craziness and attenuates it over a longer period of time to give us an opportunity to calculate what are the costs and benefits of breaking the rules.
And by New Year's Eve, when Mars has moved past the opposition to Uranus and is now exactly squaring Pluto, Mercury, which had moved into Capricorn a week ago, is now caught up, and Mercury is conjoined with Pluto. The Sun is coming into the picture, and this is actually the new moon on January 1st. The moon is there also. We'll just jump there just because it's like a pretty amazing package of the Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Pluto that are all squaring Uranus and squaring Uranus on this side, yep, and squaring Mars on that side. And Mercury, which is moving faster than the rest of them, over the next couple of days comes into an opposition here with Jupiter. So we have the 4 cardinal or season starting signs: Aries spring, Uranus in Aries, Cancer summer, Jupiter in Cancer, Libra autumn, Mars in Libra, and the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Pluto, and Venus retrograde all in Capricorn. There's some real stuff up in here.
Now, again, it's very easy to describe it on, the dark personal side. But let's come back to where we began today. We began by talking about the vision and hope and aspirations of Sagittarius, and the innovation available to us now with Uranus, the planet of innovation, trine or harmoniously, creatively aligned with the new moon from 2 days ago. What that suggests, as we go toward the end of the month, is that this is a year where the gifts we give to ourselves and to society are gifts of innovation and personal empowerment. You see, Uranus and Pluto are destructive when we're rebelling against others, when we resent others, when they are the source of the problem. But as we individuate, as we become more conscious of ourselves as creative people, then Uranus is a planet of liberation, and Pluto is a planet of empowerment. And although those are challenging energies to use, I think this holiday season, this level of transformation, is a gift to give ourselves, and one that perhaps may take humanity from some of the brinks of economic, environmental challenges that we face, and perhaps break us open toward a new world.
Yeah, well said. And I think, Jeff, the other piece of all these planets in Capricorn, going back to the new moon, where we've set our aspirations, our goals, our vision, the Sagittarian vision, and then we have the benefit of the expansive Jupiter, contractive Saturn working hand in hand. And now with all these planets in Saturn's sign, Capricorn, it's a reminder that freedom doesn't come without a price. And the price is not something that is exacted from us. The price is the hard work that we need to do in order to climb the mountain, in order to reach the goal. And if we're willing to make that kind of Saturnian, Capricornian commitment to make a plan and to actually work with that plan, I think this can be a profoundly opening and changeful period of time that does free us from the past. It involves taking a risk.
Exactly.
But it also involves not just taking a blind risk, but taking a risk with a plan, a calculated risk, and then doing the work.
And how that works, the calculated risk of Capricorn, you can't just build it externally. It has to be rooted in self-trust. And that's what I think the Jupiter-Saturn trine offers. The capacity to trust ourselves. And it's easy to trust ourselves when we're kind and generous and loving and sweet and happy. It's more challenging to trust ourselves when we're angry, when we're resentful, when we're unsatisfied. That doesn't mean that we want to continue that behavior, but if you can trust yourself enough as a source of love and light and creativity, then I think the commitment will come easily.
Join Rick Levine and Jeff Jower for their annual forecast seminar at beautiful Brighton Bush Hot Springs, Oregon from January 10th through 12th next year. For details, go to brightonbush.com. That's BREITENBUSH.com. Join astrologers Jeff Jower, Alan Oken, Aaron Sullivan, and Lauren Albandian for the Wisdom of Astrology Conference from March 29th to April 4th, 2014 in Santa Fe, New Mexico. For details and registration, go to alanoken.com or click the link on the front page of stariq.com.